In the shadowy corners of the internet, where urban legends thrive and haunt our collective consciousness, few stories resonate as deeply as that of Carmen Winstead. Her tale is more than a cautionary note. It embodies our darkest fears and the consequences of human cruelty. Have you heard of Carmen Winstead? The name seems common, almost harmless. But the story that accompanies it carries a dark weight, one that sticks in the mind and comes back when silence falls. Carmen is one of the most well-known urban legends on the internet, one of those accounts that start as a warning and end as a veiled threat. A story created to scare, but that reveals much about guilt, cruelty, and fear. According to the most widespread account, Carmen was a shy girl who had just arrived at a new school. She only wanted to fit in, make friends, and go unnoticed. But instead, she became the target of ridicule and bullying. A group of classmates began to humiliate her daily, pushing the girl into greater isolation. Until, on a day that seemed ordinary, the violence crossed the line. In a hallway, near an open sewer, Carmen was surrounded, taunted, and pushed. The impact of the fall broke her neck. Silence engulfed the place for a few seconds, followed by panic. Instead of calling for help, those responsible closed the sewer and left, letting the girl die alone in the dark. From that moment on, the story changes tone. It is said that, sometime later, the same young people began to receive strange messages on their phones and computers. Short, repetitive messages that narrated what had happened and always ended with a warning. If you do not share this story, I will come after you. The threat spreads along with the account, turning those who read it into part of the legend itself. Carmen's figure stops being just a victim and begins to be portrayed as a vengeful spirit who haunts those who ignore her story or mock her suffering. What makes the legend of Carmen Winstead so disturbing is not just the supernatural element, but what comes before it. The terror does not begin with the ghost, it starts with human cruelty. The story puts the reader in front of an uncomfortable reality: bullying, exclusion, group violence, and the complicit silence that allows tragedies to happen. Carmen becomes a symbol of all the voices that were silenced before someone decided to listen. In internet culture, this legend spread like a chain of fear. Forums, social networks, and videos began to reproduce the narrative, always accompanied by a tone of threat. The fear is not only in the possibility of a vengeful spirit, but in the feeling that, by reading the story, you have been pulled into it. The reader ceases to be a distant observer and takes an uncomfortable place in the plot. To share or not to share seems like a decision loaded with consequences, even when reason says it's just a story. Over time, variations of the account emerged. In some versions, Carmen appears in mirrors. In others, she emerges in the reflection of blank screens or in dark hallways. The setting changes, but the central message remains. Stories like this survive because they explore a deep fear that everyone carries at some level. The fear of being forgotten, of being humiliated, of suffering an injustice without anyone intervening. The supernatural revenge works almost as an attempt to restore a justice that failed in the real world. As you hear this legend, it's worth thinking about what truly frightens about it. It's not just the idea of a spirit coming back to seek revenge. It's the ease with which ordinary people can become cruel. It's the silence that follows a grave error. It's the feeling that sometimes evil does not present itself as a monster, but as a group of laughter in a school hallway. The legend of Carmen Winstead remains alive because, deep down, it speaks less about ghosts and much more about us. What you saw is only part of the story. To stay up to date on upcoming facts, mysteries, and revelations, like, subscribe, and follow our channel.